All righty, well, before we get to the big doings over at the big stadium, we gotta talk about our nation's capital, Brian. Washington, D.C. was the site of the Smackdown for August 23rd, where they're almost ready to go home to Berlin, or go home for Berlin, or Sweet Home Berlin. Take me home, Berlin roads. Take me home, Autobahn. See, I'm going to polish this. Take me home, Autobahn.
Did you ever hear the Lou Reed album, Berlin?
No, did he go to Berlin too?
Yeah. And for a while it was the heroin capital of Eastern Europe. But he followed up Transformer, his biggest hit album, with Walk on the Wild Side, produced by David Bowie. He followed that up with Berlin, which most people who have heard it will agree is the most depressing album ever. Every song makes you want to kill yourself. It's the most depressing fucking album. And it's the most curious move, and one of the many curious moves in the career trajectory of Lou Reed. Berlin.
What did you think about Berlin, the group? Old Terry Nunn?
Terry Nunn. For whatever reason, on like that first album, what did it say? Like, Terry Nunn, BJs and vocals. It's like, what? What the fuck is that?
Well, you know, she was a tiny little girl. Do you know this? Very short, petite. Stacy met her at a concert in California many years ago and had two of my 45s from the early 80s with the picture sleeves, had her picture right there on the cover, and got them autographed. We have them in the TV room to this day.
You know, she was an actress, too. Because she's,
yes.
I believe she's one of the actresses that tried out for the role of Princess Leia.
And also she was in other things. What was she in? God damn it, I hadn't thought of her in ages. Because you brought up Berlin. You keep doing this to me. You throw me off subject. What else was Terry Nunn in?
I don't know, but Bob Ezrin was the producer of Berlin. And of course he went on to have a great career as a producer, but that album took a lot out of a lot of people. Back to SmackDown.
Oh, you mean the producer of Berlin, the album by
Lou Reed.
Lou Reed, rather than, I thought you meant because we were talking about the group Berlin. I thought he produced Berlin and their album took a lot out of people. Because I thought their album was very peppy and full of life.
All right.
But not Lou Reed's.
Unlike this show today.
All right.
Peppy and full of life.
I guess we got to talk about Smack. They had a big house in Washington. But that's nothing newsworthy. They've been doing that lately. And the opening video that they did was the recap of last week where Roman returned and beat up all of the associated bloodline there and got the Ula Fala, the red lay, and had it around his neck. And then Jacob Fatu with the super kick and just beat the shit out of him. And they did this video brilliantly, even with the sound effects and the beats and the whole 9 yards. And I'm like, wow, let's see what's going to happen next. And then they had a big introduction for Grayson fucking Waller. And Austin Theory was with him, and he had the ring set up for his goofy talk show. And they brought out Cody, who was over in Washington like fucking Martin Luther King. They were screaming for him, and I had a conundrum. I'm like, do I watch because it's Cody, or do I not watch because it's Waller?
Oh, and come on, he's not that bad.
Oh,
that you would even consider skipping a Cody segment.
Hey, the only way I can see putting him in the main role in anything related to entertainment is if they goddamn do an Australian update of Gomer Pyle USMC. And then stick that gangly, gawky, dopey-looking fucker in that. Right. But anyway, because Cody was there, let's see what they're going to say for themselves. And they're trying to get heat on Waller for some reason. He cut off the entrance before the fans could, whoa! And he cut off his opening line. But Cody is still majorly over, blah, blah, blah. So Cody said that giving Owens a title shot wasn't charity. Owens, he doesn't stop fighting. He's fought the bloodline all this time. I would have been champion if not for Kevin Owens. Not like you, Grayson Waller, who just uses Austin Theory, but one of these days, you're going to smarten up Austin Theory, and everybody wants to see you get even with Waller, is what he's saying. But then Waller plays Cody a video of Owens over the last 10 years turning on Sami Zayn, John Cena, Chris Jericho, Kofi Kingston, Sammy again. How many times has Kevin Owens / Steen turned on Sami Zayn / El Generico, I wonder?
Well, I was going to say just in WWE, or you're talking about ever?
No, over their entire lifetimes.
Oh, boy.
I don't know I could bring myself to trust that guy again after number 5 or 6. But anyway, they play that video, and out comes Kevin Owens. And it's not going to happen because all of them except for Kofi deserved it. Kofi, I'm sorry. Yeah, my bad. But the rest of them deserved it. But then he did the deal that he loves to do. He loves to do this. I've seen him do it a bunch of times. Where he says, now is the part where usually I'd get in and we'd beat you guys up and somebody would make a tag team match. Yes, and it happens too often, but you're not the cool kid, Kevin, that should be allowed to make fun of their own goddamn television show. That's his thing. He always wants to be cool for the smart fans. Instead of come up with a different way to do it that doesn't involve either you doing the same thing in the same order or making fun of the fact that wrestling is fake and they do a lot of the same shit in the same order. You see where I'm going with this, Brian?
I do. And I can see why it would bother you.
Yes, come up with a new way to do it without taking a piss out of the fucking program you're on. So Owens calls Aldis out to make the match, and Aldis makes the tag match, and then Owens says, do I have time to punch him in the face anyway? Usually it happens before we make the match. And again, this is why I couldn't suffer him a lot in Ring of Honor, because he always wanted to appeal to the absolute smallest group out there that is watching wrestling to basically do what fucking Uncle Dave does. Anyway, and Aldis says, we'll make it quick, and then they beat up the heels. So there you go. I don't know that this was the thing that put the most amount of interest in the main event tag match, but the only thing they were going for is Kevin Owens going to turn on Cody Rhodes? Your thoughts on this performance?
They went for two things. Will Kevin Owens turn on Cody Rhodes? And they teased that till the very end. And the other thing was, I guess, a lighter tease. Austin Theory having a babyface run and starting it off by getting fed up with Grayson Waller using him.
Well, yeah, but they've been teasing that to the point where...
Well, this was the most overt. It was said out loud in front of the entire building.
Well, a lot of the announcers have been saying it out loud in front of the goddamn television universe. If they're going to... Teasing is one thing, but if they're not going to put out eventually, let us get home early so we can call somebody that's desperate.
Do you think that's what Austin Theory needs right now? Not just to be away from Grayson Waller, but actually to be a different... Not to be heel anymore, to be a babyface for a while?
Well, but... You know, the problem is they've painted him as such a clueless putz. What is his personality as a babyface now? Does he get a brain transplant? How does he metamorphosize into someone that we want to cheer for as a person?
Does he need a friend?
I don't...
I mean, it sounds funny saying it like that. But does he need like Cody Rhodes is the one he was here... Top babyface in the company is the one here saying you're being used by this guy.
You know what he needs? He needs goddamn Jeff Jarrett to come over and give him a big pep talk like he did to Danielson. That's what he needs.
So you want him to go to AEW, that's what you're saying?
No. I want Jeff Jarrett to come back here. He deserves better. Anyway, we'll talk about the tag team match playa main event in a minute, but So we're about 15 minutes into the show. We've got that established. We get the first match, and it's for the U.S. title, and it's LA Knight, and it's Pablo Escobar with the whole crew of lucha heels out there. And I'm like, I don't know that they're very interesting. But basically, during the introductions, the heels jerked LA Knight to the floor and beat him up. And the announcers had to say, well, all this is legal because the bell hasn't rung yet to start the match. And then the referee kicked all three of the Stooges, including the girl out of Jennifer Lopez, out of ringside and rings the bell, and LA Knight gets a flurry, but Escobar gets the heat on him. And I started fast forwarding because what's fuck? We hopefully know what's going to happen. And I'm not interested in Escobar and his organization there. But did you see LA Knight's big elbow off the top right before he hit his finish?
Yes, I did.
I love that. He has a twist. He stood on the second rope and jumped backward to the top and then came off the top with the elbow. He doesn't look like a trapeze artist, but he does some cool shit.
Yeah, and every time he does it, even though you've seen him do it before, it's almost a surprise at the ease at which he does it. I mean, I've seen him slip up a few times too, but a lot of those times it's him actually trying to work with someone on the top rope as opposed to jumping himself and jumping off.
Yeah. Normally everybody Braun bobbled the other week, but nevertheless, LA Knight with the BFT 1, 2, 3 for you and me. Come see, come saw. And then we had a girls 6-man tag team match.
6-woman.
Yes. Well, okay. I'm sorry. We had a women's 6-man tag team match.
No, 6 women's trios spectacular. Now, you can't say man. 6 women. Were there any 6 women's tag matches back in the day? I can't even think of. Was Moolah doing those matches?
No. Well, no promoter wanted to fucking pay for them.
Yeah, how many promoters had 6 women on the card?
Well, every once in a while, you would have like the 6-girl battle royal, and that might be considered an attraction. But you wouldn't just book a 6-woman tag team match because that would be silly, playa. And then they did a package where we're almost to the 9 o'clock hour, but Natalya narrated a package on WWF in Germany in the 1990s. It was like, I remember my Uncle Brett telling me about how popular it was. But they mentioned that the first time that Raw emanated from Berlin was March 3rd, 1997. Was that not that fucking low-rated piece of shit that led to Vince McMahon hiring Shit Stain to begin with?
I think so, because I remember the look of it. It was just dark and dreary. It just did not look up to snuff against.
Well, and remember, it was from 2 places because I did the commentary on one. We were there that night live in the studio in Stamford. One of them one location was from Berlin, and the other one was for somewhere in the Middle East. Was it? It wasn't Kuwait. Oh, God damn it. I can't reach my drawer with all my books or I'd look it up. But nevertheless, that had been the big international Raw. Vince and Kevin Dunn had the idea that since they had 2 international tours at that time going, that they would have tape or live or whatever the fuck. It was all on tape at some point. But they would have the Raw emanating from these 2 foreign locations around the world. And it would be a big deal that would show their superiority over WCW that couldn't draw in international markets. And none of the fans gave a shit, right? And besides that, it was just house show footage and matches that they were shooting. There was no story. There was no fucking live interviews where people were coming out and trash talk, blah, blah, blah. It was just a straight wrestling show with good matches that had not been promoted because everything was being talked about. Oh, they're in Berlin and they're in fucking Swaziland, wherever. And then when the rating came in abysmal, Vince McMahon had a breakdown and hired Shitstain on the writing staff, ignoring the fact that at least 50% of his writing staff had been saying for the previous couple weeks that those shows were going to be the shits because they were just dry matches.
I do want to go back and watch that, though. It's been years, probably since 97, that I saw Davey Boy versus Owen. I want to go back and watch that.
It was a great match. It was a house show match, and it hadn't been promoted for weeks on television. It was just, people were looking, the show kind of looks okay. It's just they shot a house show. And there's no promos. And where's this thing and that thing and the other thing? And we were doing commentary over it from Stamford after the fucking fact.
And again, Nitro was live and
with two different announcing teams because you couldn't have same announcers in two different countries because people would see through it. So they had footage from two different countries and had the announcers in a studio calling it.
Could have used a time machine.
Boy, even that. I would have welcomed that rather than some of those voiceover sessions we did back then with Vince producing. Nevertheless, at the 9 o'clock hour on SmackDown, here came Solo and the Bloodline. And this was genius what they did here, because you will recall that when they won the tag team titles, it was supposed to be Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa, but Tonga Loa had got he'd been playing with his BB gun. I guess he put his eye out or whatever. It had an eye patch on, right? So they substituted Jacob Fatu so Jacob Fatu could beat up the baby faces and win the tag team title pretty much all by himself. And now they came out and Solo says, Jacob, give Tonga Loa the tag team title belt. And he does. I love you, my tribal chief. Because now he says you can't be one of the tag team champions if you're going to be my personal enforcer. So now they featured him beating up the champions and winning the belts, and then he doesn't have to sell to any of these mid-card tag teams or potentially be on the losing side. So I thought that was a stroke of genius. And otherwise, as soon as Solo talks, they chant, "We want Roman. We want Roman." He doesn't. He has more heat. He has more heat like, "Fuck you, you're a heel, we don't like you." Then when Roman said, "Acknowledge me," a lot of them booed and they roared, and there was even a bigger response. But a lot of them were cheering, and you saw the number one, the fingers that would go up. But now they view Solo as the pretender to the throne, and Roman's over as the big baby face. And so Solo's got more heel heat than Roman had at the end there. And Roman is automatically Cody level here. They're 1 and 2 neck and neck. And, you know, I mean, and most of these guys are new. Except for Roman, they're all fucking new, and they've gotten him over. I don't know, I'm droning on. Before the segment goes to shit, what did you think?
You know, it was interesting. It was interesting hearing the audience reaction to Jacob Fatu standing there and having the tag title taken from him. And then you see Jacob Fatu's role, which is really to kind of minimize what he's going to do in the ring until it's needed, it seems. I'm all for doing more with Tonga Loa. I'm all for having him in every match. He's hysterical. He's one of my favorite guys in the business. And, you know, it's effective stuff. It plays into everything later on. You know, you still just don't know where everything's going to go. You don't know when Heyman's going to come back. You don't know when other people are going to be added to this, when the Usos are going to get added to this. Because Solo's their brother. That's how Roman and them can heal up. But we'll see. I thought this was good, though. And I've had people send me, I guess we'll talk about the match a little later. Apparently, Jacob Fatu stood at ringside the entire time with his hands in the prayer position.
Yes.
And didn't break like the entire match.
Well, see, that he steals the show by standing in the ring because he's so much more intense than the others, and he looks so much wilder than the gold fucking teeth guy. He looks like fucking Jaws, Richard Kiel, and James Bond. And he looks like he can snap at any minute, whereas the other ones, as I mentioned before Jacob came in, they just seem like they're a little too clean. So you're drawn to, he has a charisma, he has magnetism, you're drawn to keep an eye on him, and he commits to what he's fucking doing, right? So anyway, they've said and done all this, and then here comes B-Fab and the Street Profits. And this is exactly what I was just talking about. You can't have Jacob working equally with the Street Profits or the other mid-card tag teams when he's supposed to be some type of threat to Roman Reigns' health. So that's why they moved him out of. They used it to get him over, and then they moved him out of it to put heat on the other bloodline folks and take him out of an awkward position. So, this is more example of the intricate way that they're thinking into this, rather than AEW, where anybody at any level of the card is going to go 20 minutes with the top fucking guy. And it makes no sense visually or storyline or anyway. Having said that, we had to watch Tama Loa, the Tongas. God damn it.
Tama Tonga and
if they're brothers, why don't they have the same last goddamn name?
I don't know. They do things differently on the islands.
Well, strange as it may seem, they give these Samoans strange names these days. Now you got who's on what's island, what's on second island, or who's on first island, what's on the second island, and I don't know who's on the third island. Anyway, so the Tongas wrestled the Profits. And finally, Jacob Fatu super kicked both of the Profits and threw one in, and Tama hit his finish 1, 2, 3. So again, they're featuring Jacob. I couldn't go through the nuts and bolts of the whole thing. Did Tonga Loa miss the ground when he fell this time, or anything major?
No, not really. It was kind of boring because of that. But no, it was. I think the Street Profits. I think the Street Profits are good, and I think they've been used a little better lately. But of course, they lost here, so we'll see what happens now.
It's all to be determined. Only time will tell if we stand the test of time. But let's get back to the point of this thing, because we still got shit to go here. Then, after the Bloodline, the Tongas beat the Street Profits, then they get more heat on them, but then Ciampa and Gargano hit, and they started making a big comeback, and I'm like, my God, they can't be out of their minds at these two. But fortunately, no. Jacob Fatu and Solo stopped them and beat the shit out of them too. So all was right with the world by the time they got out of this segment.
Did Gargano and Ciampa get too much? Considering if the end result was going to be what it was, where they're going to get beat up by Jacob Fatu, considering these are the main guys, the Bloodline, did they get too much?
They didn't get too much on the Tongas, but Solo was put in an awkward position there for about 10 seconds. So that's, but possibly that's to, assuage hurt feelings. I don't know, but yeah, I wouldn't have, they don't get to fucking Blofeld before they pass all of the goddamn henchmen. See, think about that.
That's very good.
So anyway, back in the back, they had Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens having an awkward discussion with each other. Kind of there's a little tension in the air. And like, yeah, are you ready? Yeah, I'm ready. You ready? Yeah, I'm ready. And Owens is like, I don't want you to think that I'm setting you up. And that's not going to happen. The other guys, they deserved it, whatever. And Cody said, no. All I can do is take you at your word and be ready for what comes next.
Why did they deserve it? The other guys, they deserved it. What did Sami Zayn do?
Oh, he's always doing something. That's why he gets turned on so much. But here's the thing, that now I'm pretty convinced that they're yanking our chain and teasing something that's not going to happen for intrigue's sake. Because at first, when they first mentioned it, I didn't even think it was going to happen. I wasn't sold on the idea it was going to happen. Is this what they're trying to do? But this is a red herring, because right now, Kevin Owens turning on Cody Rhodes would diminish when Randy Orton turns on Cody Rhodes, which I'm sure is going to happen and is where all the big money is. And also now they've led us to believe that, and are about to again in this tag match, to the point where I don't believe it's going to happen. You see,
can they do this with every one of Cody's friends while he's champion? Every single person, you think they're going to turn on him and you're just waiting for it to happen?
Well, to some degree,
it's a very
maybe,
Dusty Rhodes kind of thing now that I think about it.
Well, yeah, to some degree you can, but you can't go too far overboard with it, or it loses because they've planted seeds with Orton, and that will be big, and I'm pretty sure it will happen. But if you tease everybody to the same level or the same extent, where you've almost got people believing it's going to happen, then eventually, when it does it, that's kind of taking the edge off of something there. So, not everybody. But Owens, a backstabbing prick like him from that video, I guess you could make a good case for that. But that's how they set up the tag match: Cody and Owens against Theory and Waller, and what might happen. But it was a standard tag team match, and they worked the gimmick. And by the way, Waller looks like a valet parking guy, had to step in because somebody's plane was canceled. Even Owens is a physically repulsive looking human being with the pale white skin and the tattoos to cover the lack of definition and the clothing to cover the rest, but at least he looks like some fucking body. Even if some fucking body has a rotten body. Anyway.
That's a compliment in some kind of way.
So there was a spot where Cody got distracted off the apron by one of the heels and missed Owens' attempt to tag, and they got some heat on Owens. And then Owens gives a cold tag to Cody. Nobody can set up a fucking hot tag. It ain't that hard. God damn it. They just don't even try anymore. And the people cheer because it's a tag, but can you imagine if it had been done right? And then they stopped, after Cody made a comeback, they stopped him and got some heat on him. And then Owens was distracted by one of the heels and missed Cody's opportunity to tag. So they're putting in your mind, there's going to be something go on. And finally, Cody got another cold tag where there's nobody trying to stop him. He just reached up and tagged, but they cheered anyway. And Owens made interesting choice of making his comeback on the floor to start. And then Swanton, 2 count. They go back and forth, and Owens powerbombed Waller 1, 2, 3. At least they've started beating Waller. So that gives me hope. But then the whole payoff to the thing was Owens picked up the title belt, and Cody's in the foreground, Owens is in the background, heels are on the floor. So it looked like he was going to draw back and hit Cody, but right then he walks by him and hands Cody the belt and starts yelling at the heels.
They did that really well.
They did do that really well. And then Cody's suspicious look, like...
Yeah, no, that was done really well.
Because I just turned and had him in my peripheral vision. Did he change what he was going to do? Can I trust him in Berlin not to jerk my balls from my fucking coin purse? And I mean, these things happen.
You never know. I mean, it is Berlin.
Yes. In the heat of competition, those Germans have been known to snatch somebody's coin purse.
That's right.
But that's the way they did that on the Smackdown, Brian. And I'll tell you, it was very close as to whether Owens turned on Cody, close as to whether Cody may have believed the things the heels said about Owens. It was a close shave all around.
That's right. And usually you don't hear the word close shave with Kevin Owens.
No, but I'll tell you what, that's why I wish that I had known about our friends at Harry's back when Owens was working for me. Because Kevin Steen was a hairy, unkempt son of a bitch who you could not get to wash his and press his gear or dress up in a suit or shave his beard in an appropriate fashion to look like he hadn't been living in a cave for 3 months. You couldn't do any of that. But if it had been as easy as just pointing him to Harry's.com back then in those days, in the days before internet shaving became a thing, then God, that it would have been easy as pie. Piece of cake, piece of pie, piece of baked goods, box of fluffy ducks. Because you know nobody's going to shave you like Harry. I think we've established that, Brian, haven't we? That nobody's going to give you a shave of the slickness and the inexpensivality and the satisfactory capability of our friends at Harry's.com. We've proven that, haven't we?
We've said, I mean, I don't know about prove. I don't know. That's an interesting word.
I believe that any jury in the United States of America today would feel that we have proven our case, because when you go to Harry's.com, it's not like when you go to the grocery store and you try to get the package of cartridges that go on your razor and they're weighed down with a ball and chain, a giant padlock. If you try to innocently walk out of the store with one of these in your pocket just because you didn't want to lose it when you bagged the rest of your groceries, and all of a sudden here comes a bunch of Gestapo and they tackle you and they start beating you with clubs because you've set off every alarm in a goddamn NORAD. You don't have to go through all of that. All you got to do is order your cartridges, order your razors, order your foaming shave gel, order your deodorant, your lotion, your body wash, your hair gel. Or yeah, you might even be able to order gasoline, kerosene, and peroxide from these people. Who knows?
No. We know.
Well, you never can tell. They might
we can tell. We can tell.
You can tell right now.
Explicitly tell there'll be no gasoline, kerosene, or whatever the third one was. That was a no.
Well, what about petroleum jelly? See, that's something they might branch out into.
I don't know how that's used. It could be used potentially, I guess, for some kind of...
But Vaseline is petroleum jelly.
Right.
So, see, you've got an oil-based product in there, but it's also jelly.
I don't make the rules.
So you can say, please pass the jelly, and everybody knows that you need some Vaseline to grease yourself up for who knows what kind of intrusion from another person is going to happen in your various orifices. But nevertheless, back at Harry's, they will give you the slickest, the best, the nicest shave with all the shaving products and the smell good product, the skin softening body wash where you can smell like random trees in a forest before the root rot sets in. And they've got amazing smelling deodorant that will also your odor. Because if you have a problem with having an odor that's not been deed, they will deodor you. And then a bloodhound won't be able to pick you out of a goddamn small forest because you will have no odor. You'll be completely blank with nature. The wild bears will walk right past you because your scent has been neutralized with $5 deodorant from Harry's.com.
Again, we're not promising any of those effects, but check it out from Harry's.com.
Try it for yourself. Yes, right. Put the deodorant on, go out in the fucking woods and antagonize a bear. He won't be able to see you.
Don't poke the bear. Be careful, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, some people poke the bear and they deserve what they get.
Well, that's true, but not with this fine cologne on from Harry's.
Well, but right now, if you put the cologne on, the bear's going to smell you because you're going to say, what's this fancy Dan motherfucker doing in my sewage-smelling forest? He's the only thing that smells good. I'm going to eat him first.
Sewage-smelling forest? Where the hell are you?
Well, have you ever smelled a deep, dark forest with all the goddamn mildew from the compost? You got dead trees rotting. You've got animals shitting everywhere. It's nothing but fecal matter and goddamn feces and methane gas everywhere.
This is the same thing you said about the streets of London.
Well, that's right, because they let their animals out of the forest and onto those 1,000-year-old streets. But Harry's won't do that, folks. Harry's does not let any wild animals shave you or shit in your products that you buy from them. They're completely zoologically shit-free at harrys.com. What you do, you go to harrys.com/JCE, and you get started with the trial set, which is the high-quality German-engineered razor blades cartridge on the ergonomically designed weighted handle, and you just grease yourself up with some of the foaming shave gel. It'll make your whole face just tingle with joy, and then you scrape your face with the razor. And if you do it the right way, with the right side turned toward your face, it'll take all the hair off your face. And once you determine that you love it as much as we know you are, then you order more from Harry's and begin that process. And they'll just send you shit that you can use without having to go out in the world. And it's a $13 trial set. You get it $3 at harrys.com/JCE. Only if you use the /JCE. Otherwise, you're a sucker and you're paying full price.
That's right. Use it and use it today. From our friends at Harry's, one more time, what's that promo code?
harrys.com/JCE. Just take these things and just scrape your face until it's clean. Take the top layer of skin off every 6 months or so. And also that leads to better hair follicle rejuvenation.